like a freight train will. Cornbread man, biscuit boy, talking live love and southern joy. Cornbread man, biscuit boy, raise your glass, make some noise. Gravy drips in the southern drawl. Stories thick like the cypress tall. Radio rebels riding wild and free, shouting truths like a storm at sea. Hey, hey, can you feel that beat? Boots on the floor, fire in the heat. Cornbread man, biscuit boy, talking live love and southern joy. Cornbread man, biscuit boy, raise your glass, make some noise. Tells the dirt roads, whiskey skies that cut through the night like fireflies. Laughter echoes through the pines, two voices cross them county lines.
And good morning. Happy Monday, March the 23rd at 6:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rise and shine. Or maybe you've been up all this time and you're just getting moving, headed towards home after working all night, or you do security of some kind, or whatever you are. Waking up, coffee's brewing, get up, pray up, coffee up. We have all three of those. And here is the fresh coffee after the getting up and praying up on your Monday. We hope you had a great weekend. We had fun yesterday with the live NASCAR show as the race was going on. Had fun with that. We'll be doing that again. It was good to get our pet show back in after some weeks not being able to do that due to family issues, just my wife's health and stuff. But me and Miss Jen, she had a lot going on. We finally got that done. And get that back on a regular schedule. Now we're kicking off this week, and got a lot of plans this week. A lot of things going on. We do have a special interview this week. We're mentioning every day. Miss Annie Cyrus will be with us 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Thursday. 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Thursday. Most timely, maybe the most timely interview we have ever had. She has a new book, which Mom will be coming in. Hopefully by tomorrow, a new book that just dropped Saturday. And if you don't know Annie Cyrus, she's from Iran. She was forced into being a child bride. She lived under Sharia law. She made her way out, got to the United States, became a citizen and a Christian, and has her own podcast and leads some different organizations. She will certainly have opinions on the current situation with Iran, as well as her life in Iran, and hopefully something getting better there, as well as the book that she will talk about, I am sure, and I'm anxious to read it. So anyway, Miss Annie Cyrus, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Thursday. We were fortunate to get 2 spots left in the next 2 weeks, one of 2 that she only had. She's on a book tour and it certainly. Good morning, James. It certainly wasn't easy to get. We had to just kind of shuffle some things because all the time she had, and we were very fortunate to get that this early in. She's in great demand anyway, but this with the book coming out, we were very fortunate, and we just were blessed. And she will talk about all those things related to Iran and her life there and Sharia law. If there's anybody that knows the dangers of Sharia, it's Annie Cyrus, and she will speak to that. So, anyway, looking forward to that. We got a lot to pack in for an hour. We cannot extend it. It is the limit, so we'll have to have her in and out in a little bit less than an hour so she can get to her next interview. So we will pack as much as we can. We will not waste time chit chatting. It will be straight in, and we'll get as much into that interview as we can. We'll ask a few questions if there is time. So we're very blessed to have her. She has had 10 to I think it's 10 or 12 death threats that's been put on her life. Those were never taken away. Those are forever death threats in that system. They never go away until someone is dead. So pray for her continued health and well-being. But looking forward to that. So get her new book. Her book, her website is Live Up to Freedom. I love that title, Live Up to Freedom. She understands. So anyway, Annie Cyrus, Thursday. I want to make sure we announce that every show. We do have also a couple of drivers this week in our Dirt Series, Dirt Report. We'll be talking to a couple of those on Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesday will be our next live for the racing show. So just a couple of news and notes. James, how you doing this morning, bud? Before we get any further into the show this morning, let's make sure that we get our verse in. Absolutely. If the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. Those words have always been striking to me whenever you wonder why. It must be this way as a Christian. Jesus told you why. John 15:18. And it'll be okay. You know, the war, we're never going to be. Yeah, man, I bet, man. I know how it is, man. There's just not enough hours in the day, right? All the things you need to get done, want to do. Did you get your new computer yet, or get that fixed, or I guess get the one fixed that you had? I hope you got that. I hope you got that fixed, brother. But yeah, praying for you, buddy. Your good health and all that. Let's see here. Our national day. It's National Tamale Day. I'm not one of those tamale fans. I'm not saying I wouldn't eat it if I was, starving, because I would. It's not my gig. I'm not into the national or the tamales, but it is National Tamale Day. It's National Chia Day. Again, I don't think I've ever had anything to do with that, but if you have a chia, okay, nice. It's National Melba Toast Day. Once again, it's not. All parts not available. Oh, James, is that because of tariffs, or they just out, or because that was a new one. Here's one we can all. National Chip and Dip Day. It is National Chip and Dip Day. It's also National Near Miss Day. We have a lot of near misses in our life. And National Puppy Day. So National Chip and Dip Day. I'm one of those guys that do, and people, I only dip it in a couple things. And China, I got you, brother. It's National Chip and Dip Day, and I do dip certain chips, not all, into ketchup, which drives some people crazy. It cracks them up that I'm so picky of an eater, but I will do that. I don't remember when I discovered that I like that. And my favorite is Ruffles. It's my favorite chip to do that with. The salt on it's great. And I don't know why. I don't remember how that happened, because I didn't do it my whole life. But sometime in the past, and now I think I've got some grandkids that don't like ketchup, but the ones that do, they will do the same thing. My boys, uh, I know one of them for sure. He does that. He got it from me. He said, "Yeah, every day is puppy day." That's right, brother. Amen to that. National Puppy Day. Well, let's kick this day in history. See if there's anything jumps out. Um, this day in 2006, Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, what a gem of a human being. He sent the first ever tweet, "Just setting up my Twitter." That marked the beginning of a social media revolution. 2006. Um, in 2024, it's just almost 2 years ago, not quite from when this happened. Elon Musk Neuralink company demonstrated a patent playing chess online using a brain implant, highlighting advances in neural technology, especially for use in this future robot army. Hey, I could do that too, James. I absolutely could do that. I never thought about that. That's kind of like a party favors kind of. I could do that. Absolutely. In 1994, Howard Stern ran for president. I do remember that. 1969, John Lennon and Yoko Ono were married in Gibraltar. Oh, John. It's your life, brother, and you lived it your way, as Frank said. But of all the women that John Lennon could have had, James says on this day in 1945, Battle of Okinawa. What a day. Speaking of that, there is an article online today from Republican Jack Kingston, Georgia. He's been in that position for quite a few years. He says he's a Republican, and I said Senator, Representative Jack Kingston. Sorry, not Senator. But he told Newsmax on Sunday that President Trump may have to pull the trigger, as he calls it, on Iran due to him giving a deadline of 48 hours to open the strait. The trigger being hit the power plants. I would say that they don't want to do that. That's going to put a lot of the people in bad way. But they're trying to force them into a corner here. The problem with this is I don't think that they don't care. I mean, like, they're not going to do it. And here we get into the murky water of, the mission plan. The mission plan, when you're and I said we had fulfilled most of the mission, but the strait is now the thing. Everything else is accomplished, pretty much. We were never there for regime change. Israel was, but we weren't. But if you go that route, because they're not going to stop, and nobody wants to see it, but you've done about everything you can do. Well, Israel would do it, but if we do it, we're headed towards boots on the ground. If this is going to cross into a territory we don't want. There's already more Marines and expeditionary forces and all that headed there anyway. There's already been some boots on the ground, obviously. But the only way you're gonna have to hit certain areas on the ground. You've done about everything you can do from the air without having collateral damage to civilian. My thinking, and I know that they're trying to keep Israel backed off some because they're getting pressure from coalition in the region, and they don't want Israel doing it. I'm sure because of the inflammatory thing that could happen there. I mean, it was just. But you're right. They would do it. They want to do it. There's no doubt they want to do it. So how far does the president go? This is why this is the problem when you give deadlines like that. When you go on and the president is bad about this too. He does this and he tends to back off. And if he backs off here, we're in this long, murky, whatever's going to happen. The strait has to open up. So there you go. James, what do you think? I mean, I don't know how you back these fanatics off without every single one of the mullahs in whatever secession is dead. I mean, that's just the way they are. And I kind of think you're right. I mean, that's nobody wants to say that, but it just seems to be we're drawing in closer to that. And I think you're probably right. Although when you say that, people are going to say it never happened. I said we were going to war with somebody months ago, and I'm not bragging. And a lot of people gave me a hard time about that and said that's never going to happen. And I said, we are getting on a war footing. We're going to war with somebody. It was obvious to me we were in hurry up mode. Pete Hegseth, it was like they were, running laps around the whole thing, trying to get ready for war. They said they were just trying to be prepared. I said, this doesn't look like just the idea of being prepared unless you're talking about imminent threat. I felt like it was they were going to go after somebody. And of course, they've done a couple of 3 operations, this being the biggest one now. And it just had that feel. I mean, I haven't lived all these years and not learned something. And you can just tell by the actions of what they were doing that they were, I won't say itching for a battle, but it sure did look like it to me. That they were itching to let's get it on kind of thing. Let's get ready to rumble. No pun intended with rumble, but of all the people they could have, this is the one place. There's a couple. North Korea would be another one. This is one of the very few places on the face of the planet by now that somebody wouldn't have raised the white flag and said, "We're done. We give." I mean, but another thing that's weird about this is because usually when you're doing that, sad as it may be, you are carpet bombing a lot of the nation. Here we're trying not to hit the people. Most of the people. There are people that chant death to America. There's a lot of millions of people, 90 million people in this country. A lot of them, I'd say way more than half. I mean, probably 80 or 90% of the country, maybe more. I don't know. They want to happen what's happened, but you can't start just nailing them or then you lose support because then they're going to be saying, who's my enemy here? So the only way you can do that, you can't do it from the air. You can only hit so many targets. We've done that. We've hit thousands. The Israelis have hit even more than we have. There are a few, maybe if it's a couple of thousand left that they can hit. But these people are buried deep, and they've got ways to hit. I mean, they're in the country, so they got ways to hit these people in their own country, and they don't care if they get killed. They don't care about the people. So I definitely think you will do that. That's a given. That's one of the reasons more assets are in the region. They're going to take the island, set up operations there. Could we also see a de facto government being set up there to replace the one that's in there? That's another thought I had, because some of the people they want involved have been exiled they've ran for their lives, been exiled from the country for a long time, and they could actually set up something there and have it close by. I've thought of that too. So I think we think the same thing pretty much. And the 48 hours is ticking. I mean, was the 48 hours, was that on Friday? The 48 hours, I mean, here we are Monday. We're closing in. Sometimes today, sometime tonight. I don't remember exactly. It's got to be pretty close. The 48 hours is up. The president's going to be looking really bad if the strait's not open. There's a few that slip through, but most of it's dead. And he's got to get that opened up. So he has swore that it will be open, or else. Some of that has to happen, or he looks very bad. And they know that, because the only thing that they have on their side, meaning the Iranian leadership of what's left of it, is time. And I read somewhere that time that the American people get frustrated, the pressure's on, gas prices go up, energy prices, more dead soldiers, and they start putting pressure on the administration to get out of there, is time, because they got time, because they don't care. Presidents are on limited time, and unless they get in a quagmire, and then it becomes they're out of time. Afghanistan, Vietnam, whatever. Let's see. There's a lot of people that would say that. But we understand that word geopolitical, and it causes a mess. See, this is why people say we should never got there. I get the reasons why we did. I get it. Some of it's for Israel, sure. Some of it's for the weapons they can do. Some of it's for, maybe even change the balance of power and energy. I mean, all those things you can think about. Neutralize them, take away their ability to forever do a nuclear bomb in all of our lifetimes. All those things, whatever the mission statement was, the mission statement has been now changed somewhat. I was waiting on James to say it. I was like, he's going to say it. I'm just waiting. We're going to get birthdays today. There are a few birthdays I want to point out. Reese Witherspoon is 50. I like some of her work. Matthew Modine, 67. Hard to believe. 67. William Shatner. Beam me up, Scotty. He's 95. Tough guy. J.J. Watt, 37. That's hard to believe his career is already basically really over. God, such a in shape. 37. So hard for football players. DJ Moore, 39. Still been getting it. Good job for him. Let's see who else. Dave Portnoy, 49. He's quite the character. Some things I like he does. Some things are stupid. Just being honest. He gets on my nerves sometimes. Mick Schumacher, 27. Race car driver, know him. Rick Harrison. I remember Pawn Star, 61 years old today. Golly, time flies by. Let's see. I think that's about it for our birthdays today. Oh, James Walt, 41. I know him. So not personally, but I know of him. So anyway, that's what Jack Kingston says that he. But Iran is threatening to fully close Hormuz after his ultimatum. So Iran says it's winning the war, keeping control of the strait. Walls, all options open Iran, including the nuke plants. So anyway, that's kind of some news bouncing around today. Alan Dershowitz, Iran represents the greatest threat since Hitler. With the use of the missile capability, I would say yes. They couldn't have done the other, but yes. Well, that's true. And they are starting to test a lot of those lasers and stuff. That's what wars do. They get all their toys out and test them. They find out what works, what doesn't, what they need to adjust, what new things they need. It's sad to say, but medical technology always advanced in our history through war. If you go all the way back, I mean, they learn new ways to do things. You think about amputations in the war between the states here in the United States. There were so many limbs that were amputated that they learned a lot about that from the beginning to the end, how to better do that. Infections. There was a lot they still didn't know later on. There were still lots of things they were still practicing the wrong way, even up to the Spanish-American War, about water, clean water and things. They just didn't get it. But they did learn to operate better out of necessity. Use of prosthetics, their understanding, the building of them, the making of them increased. So many soldiers who were injured that needed something. And they learned more about that. They learned how in the field when they didn't have certain medicines, what they could use naturally, even as well, to help with some of those things. So it happens. And maybe that was one of the greatest advancements was medical knowledge, medical science, knowing the human body even more and what was good, bad. Unfortunately, the soldiers were the guinea pigs out of necessity. I mean, there were some people with some really creepy damage that they had done, and they never dealt with that on a basis like that before. I mean, people with their insides. Hey, you too, James. God bless, man. You have a great day out there. See you, buddy. If you're on Rumble, follow the Empty Pockets podcast or YouTube. You'll like James. He's straight shooter, just tells it how it is. That's a great Saturday show, talking veteran causes with a vet. And 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Empty Pockets podcast. Rumble. Make sure you follow him. We're going to get him on the show again soon. He's busy too. Probably don't have time to come on this old crazy show, but I'd like to have him come back. Yeah, we'll set that up. It's been a little bit. We need to make that happen. It's not been on purpose. Just we're swinging it. There's so many things going on in our life. Like trying to remember, for me to remember some of the people that's even on the show, make sure they're set up for the link. Let's see. There is an emergency order to stop the Nexstar merger. Newsmax and 6 state cable and broadband groups filed an emergency federal court challenge on Saturday in the FCC's to the FCC's approval of Nexstar's merger with Tegna. Let me get that right. Escalating a legal fight over what opponents call the largest broadcast consolidation in U.S. history. Of course, worried about monopoly and how much power they would have. So we'll see where that goes. But they have filed that. So everything's a lawsuit nowadays anyway. I mean, that's just the way it is. The lawyers get rich and the courts stay packed. But that's the way it goes. And everybody, wants to sue somebody or to stop something, force them into court, force them into agreement. And a lot of things are done outside of court. We would have to build thousands upon thousands of new courts to hear all the cases that need to be heard just right now. It's not possible through time to even have all those. And they just get more every day. So 95% of, maybe more, at least 95% of all cases are handled outside of court. You go to negotiation. I talked to a lawyer years ago in the city I'm next to, in the biggest city I'm next to, and he had a very old law firm. And he told me, he said, I'm one of those old ones who still remember going in courtrooms and pleading cases. He said, everything is plea bargain today. There are lawyers who get their law degree, that never see the inside of a courtroom because it's all they do. They just plea bargain everything out, which kind of stinks because when you go into it, if you're wanting to win and they just put pressure and say, well, we're not going to win, but here's what we offer. And they just back and forth trying to get something that both sides agree on. So you think about all the people that are suing for injuries. Those lawyers are by the droves out there. They never have to go in a courtroom. All of it's just getting the information together on what's happened with the case, and then, sitting down and going through that and seeing, how much leverage they have and what the insurance companies are willing to give. I talked to, one time we had a scammer. They were obviously a scammer, hit my wife, made it look like her fault. And they called me to get information from me. I wasn't there, but they wanted some information. And I said, please tell me you're going to fight this. And they said, no, it'll be negotiated. We don't much go in courtrooms anymore. It's just too much. Sometimes it can go against you and it's real damaging. It takes more cost and time, and we just settle. And I'm like, that's what these people are doing. They know that. So you have to be careful out there. It's just that's how some people do. They just go around looking for they're wanting to fall down in your store. They're wanting you to tap their car. No, force you. They'll tap you and make it look like your fault. They'll stop right in front of you. That's what happened to my wife. They were going and they just stopped. There was nothing coming, and when I say tap, there was no scratch, nothing. They jump out screaming. They go to the hospital, cussing my wife, banged on the hood of my wife's car, scared her to death. She calls 911, and they both demand to go to the hospital, holding their necks. And there was no damage, not one bit of damage to either car, but they're claiming they have whiplash and all this stuff, and it's all just a scam. They look for opportunities to do that. And I said, you need to look into these people. You need to fight people like that. I'll pay a higher premium to fight. We got to start winning this battle. But they said, no, that's just not the way the company looks at it. It's not going to happen. So everybody does that today. That's sad to say. Things like murder trials and stuff. I mean, a lot of times those, unless they plead guilty, those go to a trial, a quick trial, sometimes long. The world faces a fertilizer and food supply crisis amid the war. Escalating disruption in fertilizer supplies, which is going to drive the price on all that up. Hello, higher food prices. is raising alarm among governments, farmers, and international organizations, with experts warning the world could be heading toward a major food crisis. At the center of the problem is the Arabian Gulf, a region that plays an outsized role in producing and exporting raw ingredients essential for modern agriculture. As conflict and shipping disruptions choke off supplies moving through the strait, obviously, the consequences are rippling across global food systems. Recent reports indicate that about 30% of global fertilizer trade passes through the strait, a critical maritime choke point now severely constrained by instability. The Gulf region supplies 34 to 35% of the world's urea, 25% of ammonia, and as much as 45% of sulfur, key inputs for nitrogen and phosphate fertilizers. They're extremely significant quantities. These are extremely significant quantities, said market analyst Keeman, noting that such volumes cannot be replaced easily from other regions. Fertilizer production is tied to natural gas, which is abundant in Gulf countries such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. This has made the region a global hub for nitrogen-based fertilizers like urea, essential for boosting crop yields. Without them, agricultural productivity can drop sharply. We need synthetic fertilizer production to feed 8 billion people, said Lorenzo Rosa of the Carnegie Institution for Science, warning that prolonged shortages could have dramatic results. Shipping volumes have fallen by as much as 75% because of this. The process for urea, a key nitrogen fertilizer, have surged between 30 and 40% in recent weeks. Let me skip through here. So I'd heard a little bit about this. That's an article about it. We'd already heard that being talked about because of that, of the war. And there'll be other products as well. I mean, there's going to be other things that, because we and again, we deal in so much of things that we're shipping in from regions like that does put the pressure on American consumers, which are going to put pressure on the administration as prices go up on products and goods and services that we never even thought of. These are pretty obvious ones. There'll be other ones. You know, many Americans are so unreally informed, so shallow in their understanding. They don't even pay attention to what's going on around the world. They'll get mad when things start going up on Amazon, Temu, Shein. A lot of products are coming from that area. It's where they're made. And when they can't get their products in, that's when they'll get mad because they can't get their products. Or you go to the local store, a lot of these cheaper markets, dollar stores, things like that. There's a lot of goods and a lot of things that there's no stores for sale for cheaper, that come from regions like that, and they won't be able to get them. And of course, the big boy is gas prices. I think Americans won't grab too much until it goes over 4. They'll start chirping pretty hard. If it ever hit 5 or 6 or something like that, it'd be mass demonstrations about what we're doing there, and it's just that would happen. And there would be people fanning the flames of that to get people fired up, and it wouldn't take much to set off millions of people being upset. It'll be hard on people, but it wouldn't be shocked me if we did hit $4 or more a gallon. That's the time factor. The president's trying to wrap up and get out, and so they've done some short-term things to keep the prices down. Release of oil, from other sources, relaxing some ships that were already en route to be delivered from Iran. They changed some rules about some of the blocks that they had on Iranian oil to be able to be moved and sold and all that. But it's all short-term stuff. That gives them maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, at the outside a month before it really hits heavy again, because after that, there's nothing they can do. Not much. Probably taking the island, but still, you got to get those ships through. And I could definitely see the American naval ability to be escorting at least oil ships. But it's still dangerous. But to surround them with, and get them through the strait. So we'll see. But this has went on far longer than people had really thought it would go on. And they mentioned the 4 to 6 weeks. we're week 4, starting week 5, whatever it is. So we're right at that anyway. I mean, he thought it'd be wrapped up in a couple of weeks. But again, what is the mission? I've said this before. What is the mission? The mission, our target points seem to be changing. And then Israel has continued operations they want to provide or do, and we're providing a screen for that because of it wouldn't look good for just Israel to be pounding in Iran because it'll get out of hand with them because they'll start going after targets that we wouldn't want them to go after, and then it's going to be really ugly. And so that's probably one of the main reasons we're still there. And the Strait, obviously, I mean, this wasn't a shock. Everybody knew that's what they would do. That's what they've always done. Firing missiles and drones and shutting down the Strait. I mean, that's the power play that they have. So I don't know. We'll see. President Trump, no deal until Dems pass the Save America Act. I thought it was interesting that President Trump said that he might deploy, he wanted to deploy ICE agents to assist TSA, and Tom Homan said, "Not going to do that." Interesting. I mean, he said they could help with that, but I mean, they're not trained for that. I mean, so we could do it, but not trained for it. It's interesting. It's sometimes funny when you have the administration will say something, and then there's a little bit different, like we're not really trained for that. We could do that. You tell they don't really want to be involved with that. It's been this way with administration for even before the first term. There's always a little, and I don't know if the president he gets out ahead because he likes to say things. I think he catches some of the administration officials, leaders, catches them off guard, and then a microphone gets put in their face, and they're basically, trying to clean it up a little bit or tighten it up. Sometimes that is between the agencies themselves. One will say something, and then another says something completely different, and maybe a third even says something completely different from the other two, and that's how they cleaned a lot of that up. This second term, that happened a lot in the first few months. They seem to have cleaned that up some. But it was a little bit there with him, like we're not really trained for that. We can assist. You can tell it was not really something he was wanting to do. And so it'd be interesting to see how that advances. The Senate advanced Homeland Security nomination of Mullen, paving way for the confirmation vote. That was a 54-37 Senate vote to limit debate on the appointment. The confirmation vote could come sometime Monday, today, if approved. He would replace, of course, Secretary Kristi Noem, who was fired, sent into other duties, whatever you want to say, on March 5th. If confirmed, Mullen, a member of the Cherokee Nation, would be the second Native American to serve as a cabinet member. So we'll see. That should happen today. I think that will go through. I don't think there will be. I don't think there'll be any problem with that, to be honest. Talking about money, there's been a lot of talk about funds for Iran. Treasury Bissett says that U.S. has plenty of funds for Iran war, but he is requesting supplemental funding from Congress to ensure the military is well supplied in the future. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Sunday, speaking to NBC News' Meet the Press. He also rolled out pushing for any tax increases to fund the war. We've heard that number, $200 billion in additional funding for the Iran war, of course, faced stiff opposition in Congress with, of course, the Democrats, but even some Republicans were very, not really going with this. There was some well-known that said they weren't for that right now. Again, this is probably another way where they were cleaning up some of the terminology. I mean, when they throw a number out there and it got a lot of hits, and they say, "Oh, yeah, plenty of money. This is for future supply and making sure they're well supplied." That's a phrasing to where, yeah, they need the money, but they don't want to send the wrong message that to the Iranians, if we hold out, they run out of funding for this. But it's definitely a bot. I mean, military operations are expensive. I mean, because of not only, they're out there anyway. There's already that expense of them being on the ships and being there. you start running operations, you're running through even more fuel. You've dropped tonnage of bombs that cost a lot of money apiece, firing off anti-missile. All this stuff is really starts taking a toll on your budget. I mean, every company, every place, everybody has a budget, and you have, of course, emergency funds or whatever. But when you get something that really starts hitting the budget, then got to get more money, and you start getting in trouble with that. So that's interesting the way they phrase that. It's still the same message. We need more money. Well, we got enough money. But we're just trying to make sure a little extra pocket change. I love to read how things are written. As you can tell how they're doing a little bit of a dance here, trying to clean up something. It didn't go over very well. And I'm sure they're catching a lot of flack from even the Republicans on this one. This is not looking good. Here we are, headed to the midterms. I mean, and look where we're at. This was not what they envisioned at the midterms on the Republican side. This is not what they envisioned. It's not worked for the Democrats, though. I will say this. There are some advances been made in some of the races have definitely tightened up, and they're doing well in some areas, but not to the level I think they thought they were. One of the ones to really watch, and that's the special election here in between Fuller and Harris for the 14th. The military Harris. I mean, the support is strong. I think Fuller will still win, but it's going to be a lot closer than people envisioned in this district. If he pulls it off, they're going to milk on that one. They're going to talk about this across the whole of the United States. This is one that when it drops, and that'll be dropping in early April, it's going to send a message. So be paying attention to the Georgia 14th district and the old Marjorie Taylor Greene seat. It's not that it's an old seat, but she's the one that had that. And we're now in the runoff on the special election to fulfill that. And then, of course, we'll be back in elections again soon. Early indications suggest that this war will be the most expensive for the U.S. since the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, obviously. The first 6 days of the Iran war have cost more than $11 billion. That's what the administration told lawmakers. That the first 6 days of that war cost $11 billion. Congress had already approved the record funding for the military in January 2025. Obviously, that was the Defense Appropriations Act. That was about $840 billion in funding. Last summer, over opposition of Democrats, the Republican-led Congress passed a sweeping tax cut and spending bill that included $156 billion for defense. The Senate also defended the Trump administration's moves in recent days to lift sanctions on Iranian and Russian oil. Doing so, he argued, would allow other countries besides China, including Japan and South Korea, to purchase the oil while preventing oil prices from spiking to $150 per barrel. I've heard they could be 177 or so within a short time if things don't get better, and reducing the overall revenues Iran and Russia would receive. He said a treasury analysis showed that the maximum extra amount of oil revenue Russia could get would be $2 billion. So they're trying to keep an eye on that as well. That's not something that they look, that nobody wants to see happen. So the rainy day funds are gone. We know that. One last article here. We're going to have to get out just a little early. It's Monday. We got a lot of things to get going. We'll see you tonight. We'll be back on Southern Patriots News. Wesley Clark said to Newsmax, intensified air campaign needed in Iran before any ground troops. So they're already talking about it. He's a retired general, but he said it's not an immediate deployment of ground troops. Should define the next phase, that there are more targets they can hit from the air before that happens, because they know there's a lot of danger. There's going to be some deaths. The flag draped coffins would increase. There's no doubt. He said you need to continue to the intense air campaign. You've got to shift the targeting. You've got to get air supremacy over Iran. Well, we have that. He says we don't quite have that. Well, obviously, he was saying to that would be the missile drones. There's always that danger. You've got to put continuous air over the Iranian coastline and around the Strait of Hormuz. You've got to pick up the targets and take those targets out the best you can from the air. He described a complex battlefield environment in which Iranian military assets are dispersed and concealed, including speedboats and other capabilities hidden in tunnels, caves, and civilian infrastructure. Some are in tunnels, some are back in caves, some are in garages, speedboats that can be pushed into the water. Clark said, underscoring the difficulty of neutralizing such threats solely through conventional targeting methods. He also pointed out the role of intelligence from within Iran. And Iran has been killing people by the droves. They think are suspected or they find proof of helping the Israelis or the Americans or both. You've got to get help from people on the ground. He, in the process of calling in targets to the Israelis and sometimes to the Americans, is what I hear. He characterized the approach as a gradual campaign aimed at degrading Iran's operational capabilities over time, particularly its ability to disrupt maritime traffic. You're going to grind this out. With each day, hopefully you'll make it so that there are less and less effective means for the Iranians to resist the passage of ships. While not ruling out the eventual need for ground troops, Clark said any such move would come only after the Iranian defenses and infrastructure have been significantly weakened. At some point, we may be able to get away with putting the troops in. If we do, we want to make sure we're going against a very heavily destroyed enemy base, obviously. I think there is going to be some sort of a beachhead that will be established. The island's the first step. And then I think probably even near the strait, there's going to be some sort of ongoing presence that we'll have there. Be looking for the American flag to fly over some sort of base. It's going to happen. So there we go. All right. Have a great Monday. I do need to get out. I got a lot to do. Getting wife ready and kids ready for school and taking them and myself. And we'll see you tonight. So have a blessed day. And we appreciate you watching the Southern Patriots podcast and Wolf Nation podcast. And remember, on Thursday at 2 p.m., Andy Cyrus, who was from Iran, lives here and has an amazing story, new book. We'll be talking about all that from 2 to 3 Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. We'll see you tonight and have a blessed day. And if anything pops in, we may pop in. So if anything pops up, I really should say rather. And the only thing special tonight, we're going to get the news and we're going to do something else for sure. We'll see you. Is it?